Princess Celestia, the Changeling Queen, Chapter 6, Part 3. A few years later, another Changeling Queen with a crown antenna on her head was making her way to the entrance of her hive. She was accompanied by 30 drones, mostly small workers, with a few larger chevaliers and soldiers.
Simulacrus, wait!
The queen stopped, flaring her wings as she saw her elder sister step in front of her from a side passage. Alternia was accompanied by 5 other Changeling Chevaliers. The elder Changeling was still uncrowned, and wore a concerned expression on her face.
What do you want, Alternia?
Demanded Simulacrus, hissing wearily.
I want to send my younger sister off. Can I not do that?
Replied the older queen. Simulacrus glared at Alternia, but then lowered her head and wings.
Mother hates me,
Moaned Simulacrus dejectedly.
No, she doesn't,
said Alternia.
Oh, says Mommy's favorite little princess,
Retorted Simulacrus. Alternia winced, and then sighed.
At least take these 5 with you,
said the queen, gesturing to the 5 chevaliers beside her. The 3 males and 2 females stepped forward and saluted. Simulacrus frowned and warily examined the chevaliers before her eyelids snapped open.
What is the meaning of this, Alternia? These 5 chevaliers are from Mother's own old guard. Why would they serve me?
Inquired Simulacrus.
I ordered them to,
said Alternia. The 5 nodded in unison, their jaws clicking in affirmation. Simulacrus blinked and analyzed the chevaliers once more before narrowing her eyes again, this time at Alternia.
You lie. I do not!
Shot back Alternia.
Your acting is good, but it needs some work, sister. Now who ordered them, Alternia?
Demanded the younger queen. Alternia bit her lip for a moment and then sighed.
I asked Mother and she ordered these 5 to accompany you,
admitted Alternia. Simulacrus's eyes widened.
Why? Damn it, sister! Why did you waste Mother's favors on me? Don't you need these chevaliers? Do you not care for the starting of your own hive? Inquired
Simulacrus.
The loss of 5 chevaliers will make no difference when I have 100, Simulacrus,
replied Alternia. Simulacrus's jaw dropped a few centimeters, but she quickly composed herself and shook her head.
You do know that Mother wants you to take over the hive,
said the younger queen, and her older sister grimaced.
I know, but queens won't die unless they run out of love or they're killed. I cannot stay near her any longer. The instinct is getting harder to bear. I should have left a long time ago. But I love her so much,
sighed Alternia. Simulacrus smiled wryly and nuzzled her sister. Then, after giving a short order to the changelings under her commands, she and her company left. In the present day, before any questions could be asked, Alternia answered them.
The warning instinct is something that all non-ascended changeling queens acquire once they reach a certain age and lose it when they ascend. It's an instinct that plays a large role in the succession process. First of all, it tells the non-ascended queen a fully ascended queen is in the area, though it doesn't tell them where or how close. It then drives the non-ascended queen to start her own hive, and this is how I knew Chrysalis was close to Canterlot. The only way to escape the instinct is to either leave the area, start one's own hive, or seize the opposing queen's hive. But anyway, back to my tale. I knew I had to leave soon, and 2 years after Simulacrus's departure, I made my final preparations.
In the past, 2 years after Simulacrus's departure, Alternia trotted slowly down the hallways, the queen not wearing her usual mischievous smile. The ends of her mouth drooped and her despondent eyes lidded.
What is bothering you, my child?
Alternia spun around, eyes wide and hooves clattering nervously on the floor. Camellia stood in front of her. The changeling queen was ever regal, her dark green eyes comforting yet demanding of respect. Alternia calmed herself and sighed.
I'm just rather sad that I'll have to leave you soon.
Camellia chuckled and put a hoof on her daughter's shoulder.
I will miss you, Alternia, and the 300 changelings that will be accompanying you,
added Camellia. Alternia blinked and stared at her mother, who winked in response, and then leaned forward to catch Alternia in an embrace.
No matter where you go, my child, no matter what you will do, a part of me will always be with you. Now go, with my blessing and with my eternal love,
whispered Camellia. Alternia made no attempt to stop her tears, her mother holding her tightly. Slowly, though, as her daughter's tears dried, Camellia pushed Alternia away.
Go forth, my daughter, and fulfill your destiny,
ordered Camellia. Alternia nodded and galloped away. In the present,
Shortly after I talked with my mother, I met with my supporters and prepared to leave. I was just about to seize control of the telepathic link that connected my supporters to my mother, when...
Alternia paused and closed her eyes, and she began to take deep, calming breaths. "What happened?" asked Spike. The changeling didn't answer for a long time. When her eyes opened, they were wet, filled with uncontrollable grief, overflowing like a spring.
Everything was ruined.
Chapter 7. The Night Alternia Died. You don't lose family to death alone, and there's nothing more painful than losing family. Vren 55. The night I died was to be the day of my ascension. The dawn of my own hive became the death of everything I loved and all that I ever knew. I had just left my mother and was making my way to meet my changelings. The hive's corridors were dim, lit only by phosphorus slime that also provided structural integrity. So since that was the case, I barely noticed a group of chevaliers heading towards me. At first I thought nothing of it, but I noticed something was strange about these changelings. They were armed with poleaxes, brutal weapons that were a hybrid between an axe, hammer, and spear. Over their carapaces, the chevaliers wore dark purple armor, burnished to a dull sheen. Changelings are very tough creatures and naturally armored. We generally don't go armed or armored, especially within the safety of our own hive. The fact that these chevaliers were walking around in war gear was enough cause for suspicion. These chevaliers also seemed to focus on me, their eyes not averting in normal deference, but followed my every movement. It was like they were hunting me. Instinctively, I glanced behind me and saw 5 more armed changelings. Something was very wrong. I took one final step forward and was met with a bristling wall of spear points.
What is the meaning of this?
I demanded, hastily backing away, keeping a wary eye on the chevaliers behind me.
Please do not resist, Queen Alternia,
said one of the chevaliers, wisps of magic gathering at his horn. Biting my lip, I exhaled slowly. I was caught by 2 groups of heavily armed and ready chevaliers. I had to separate them. My horn flashed as I sealed the corridor in front of me with the strongest shield that I knew. Spinning around, I watched as 5 other chevaliers charged. Leveling my horn at the chevaliers, I let loose an inferno of emerald flames. The changelings jumped backwards, but one was enveloped in the conflagration. He gave an ear-piercing shriek and collapsed. Immediately, I seized his poleaxe with my magic and turned to the remaining 4. They advanced, hooves taking small measured steps. I leapt off my rear hooves, the axe head of my weapon scything down upon the nearest of my opponents. He jumped to the side and dodged my weapon by just a hair. My teeth ground together as I saw his companion's weapons were now whistling through the air towards me. Quickly, I pushed hard with my front hooves and flapped my wings. The heads of their weapons smashed into the ground where my hooves once stood, kicking up clouds of dust. The chevaliers were slow to bring their weapons up, though. With the hammerhead of my poleaxe, I slammed the 2 of the changelings against the wall. While I was focusing on those 2, one of my enemies galloped forward and wrapped his hooves around my rear legs. His partner, wings buzzing furiously, flew towards me, his poleaxe cradled under his hooves like a lance. I tried to step back, but my legs were pinned. Acting on instinct, I shifted my weight and twisted myself to the side as much as possible. His spear glanced off my chest, leaving a deep gouge but not drawing blood. The chevalier's eyes widened, and he gasped as he was surrounded by the green glimmer of my sorcery. Flicking my head to the right, I propelled the changeling into his compatriot and winced at the sickening crunch of armor and carapace. Panting from my exertions of magic, I turned to the remaining 10 chevaliers. They had just broken through my shield, and I groaned aloud.
Surrender, princess!
Hissed the commander of the chevaliers. Even in my exhaustion, I bared my fangs at him and snarled. Then I blinked, grinned, and gently set down my poleaxe. The chevaliers chittered uncomprehendingly at my expression. Suddenly, the commander found himself lifted unwillingly into the air by the shimmering lime hue of my magic. Eyes lidded, I glared at my trembling opponents and swung the captain into the ranks of his own command. With each flick of my head, I bowled another changeling over with a mass of cold metal and unyielding chitin. Despite the leader's howls for his changelings to kill him, the chevaliers refused to do so. After many swings, I was greeted with the moans and clicks of 9 unconscious changelings. Only one, the chevalier who I had used as a club, was awake. Tossing him onto the ground, I stood over the trembling soldier.
Why did you try to restrain me? Answer me, and I may be lenient!
I roared. The chevalier cringed, but didn't respond. So I raised my hoof and placed it on his throat.
Your sister, Chrysalis!
Gasped the chevalier. I froze. staring at the changeling, hoping that it was a lie. His eyes, though wet with fear, told the truth. Growling, my horn flashed, and his eyes slowly closed.
Why would Chrysalis try to restrain me now? Mother would...
I paused in my musings and gasped. Cold horror, like nothing I had ever felt, filled my veins and galvanized me to action. I closed my eyes and opened a portal to the entrance hall. As I cantered through, 300 pairs of eyes focused on me.
Milady, what's the matter?
Asked one of my chevaliers.
My mother's in danger. Chrysalis is launching a coup. We must go to the throne room immediately.
I said, the dreaded words echoing throughout the cavern, their meaning slowly warping the expressions of my supporters. For a moment, my heart sank. Then, from the swarm of my allies, there was a cry.
We live to serve you, milady.
That cry was echoed by the rest of my chevaliers and drones, each male and female announcing their loyalty to me. I tried to smile, but fear only allowed me a grimace.
Thank you. Now let's go.
I yelled, my changelings cheering on as we emptied the hall, not towards the light at the ends, but into the dimly lit corridors of the hive. I have a feeling that ever since this day passed, there really isn't such thing as a truce. Only thing I can see is a war. Now let's get on to our loyal donators. Top donators, Dash of Evergreen, Peter Coulthard, J Tin Man, Darkside, and Ponyman. Courier Crucii, Delta Omega, Strix, Runeslife 9852, Dospo, Ronnie Dragonwolf, Hunter Norman, Austin Roland, Secret Moon, Tall Rasha, The Toilet Snake, Sword Brethren Mordred, Cerberus, Goulash Eating Hazar, Ronin Wandering, Starlight Glimmer, Squiddy Boy, David E. Sanchez, Soul Dragon, Gaggy, Trey, Shadow Drake, Geopier C, Alex F, Rainbow Dash, Teal'c Anderson, TV Killer, John Becker, Leon Reynolds, Raven Speedster, Zach Krakow, and Mr. ECU. Thank you all very much for watching this video. Live life to the fullest, and have a Pop-Tart.